First of all, what's going on, Shawn Michaels? It is Ty Cole here, and I really have to just get this out. Holy shit! I'm so excited. I have followed you since I was like literally 3 years old. Like Monday Night Raw, SmackDown, seeing you on NXT. Me and my brother used to get in trouble all the time for saying "suck it" like all the time. Like honestly, you are a freaking icon. So I just have to really get that out. Childhood Ty Cole had to just jump out and get that out really quickly. So,
Well, I appreciate that. You're so young, though. I have to tell you, like, there was a whole career probably before you were born, too, that you might have
oh
not have
yeah,
seen or
like
haven't
I was
seen.
deep in those archives. Like back with
Fair
you and
enough.
Marty Jannetty, back with you in the clique. Like I was very
Uh,
much like tapped in. Like you are the GOAT.
well, thank you very much.
I got to watch the documentary last night. It was really good. There were so many things that you kind of called out, which I was kind of shocked about. I was kind of shocked that you were letting people be so open and vulnerable, just about like their experience with you from then to now. You've kind of been called a lot of different things of your career, whether it was a legend, an icon, even difficult that sometimes. Like The Undertaker was pretty open about or Mark Calvary would call him too. He was pretty open about just like how he felt during that time when he first was encountering you until the respect you guys have grown over time. So when you look back now, how do you separate who you were from who you are today?
Well, look, one of the things that I guess I've kind of gotten used to is so on one hand, it's been almost 30 years.
Yeah.
Um, and you can find yourself doing interviews like this and forgetting that there may be people out there that are hearing this for the first time. And I've found that I might have a tendency to sort of pick up the story of where we're at now and the mended and the reconciled relationships and almost be uh, you know not purposely but dismissive of myself and my actions and uh, that I had in the past. And I need, one of those things I've realized that I need to make sure that I'm never not reiterating that I was a very unlikable person. The reputation that I have or had was well earned. And and lots of people didn't like me, and and that's one of those things that because it's been so long,
Mhm.
um, I sometimes again forget that there might be somebody listening to this for the first time, and again, just one of those things that's humbling in that you have to remember to make sure that you still always take accountability, for those actions in the past, and make sure that you express that not everybody had the opportunity that I had was to come back in 2002 to apologize to these individuals and to be able to rebuild and reconcile those relationships and now all these years later to have them be fruitful and wonderful relationships. And so anyway, again, it's just understanding, when these types of things come out and I do these types of interviews, it's again a humbling process in just trying to remember that I have to kind of always make sure I tell the complete story.
Yeah.
It wasn't because I was not, not a great person. And again, thankfully, it was given a second chance, and that doesn't happen for everybody. And so, again, I think it's been incredibly humbling, and at the same time, very thankful that I'm, at the place where I'm at now with all
Yeah.
those individuals and with my life in general.
And speaking of complete, now, your first one was really explosive. It felt very explosive and really fun, but your second run felt more grounded. I mean, that's when I really started to get into you because I was like, what, 6 years old in 2002 or whatever. So watching you in SummerSlam, seeing you having these other matches with people, it felt like when I did my research later, as I got older and saw how you were back then, felt like a more groundedness, felt more intentional with your second run. So, which version of Shawn do you feel was more complete?
Sure. Well, again, and I think complete's a really good word, and I feel like the second one was definitely that.
Mhm.
I think there would be people again when you can look at it in hindsight, and when you're not the guy. Again, it's hard for me to look at that first run and not understand the person because
Yeah.
there was a lot of raw natural ability then. And now that I'm where I'm at, I think people can look at that through rose-colored lenses. And,
Yeah.
again, he was a menace. He was this, and I was all those things. But so much of that came from, I wouldn't have had the ability to do that, I don't think, if I wasn't the human being that I was. And again, I just don't know if that's a good thing. So
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah.
so I struggle with that, but so I always lean towards the second because
It's,
I feel like, and you used the word complete. I felt like I was a much better, and the most important thing, I guess, of all of that is that I was able to enjoy it and appreciate it. And that's something I did not have the ability to do on the first one. And so,
yeah.
kind of a night and day comparison, to be perfectly honest.
One of everyone's favorite moments that keeps coming up years later is, your super kick to Shelton Benjamin when he jumped off the ropes. You got him right there. Everyone went crazy. I even went crazy. It's one of your most talked about matches. What are your thoughts on working with him, kind of like putting that match together and just creating that moment with Shelton Benjamin?
Yeah, well, again, it's something, and it's been a little bit, but he and I ran into one another and we talked about that, and it's just something that I don't, he was such a natural athlete and so gifted, and I can remember the biggest thing that I remember was, foolishly, I guess at that time, asking is like, can you make it that far? And he was like, I mean, it was as if of course I can, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I can't, so I wasn't sure. I don't know, so,
Yeah.
but he was just so naturally gifted, and look, that's one of those things where timing is so important, and
Mhm.
it's it, it's always the ultimate goal is for it to look fantastic, but of course, not hurt your opponent, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot on both sides. And so I think that's the part that um, is always, and again, not to imply that I could hurt Shelton anyway, no matter how, even if I was trying. So, but the idea that again, it was just timed so perfectly well.
Yeah.
He took it like a champ, and that it was safe. And again, that's something that it is that is a move and an ending sequence that will stand the test of time because it was just really so perfectly executed.
It
Um,
was.
and so much of that was on him, and
Yeah.
something that I'm obviously very thankful for.
Yeah. Now, speaking of matches, what would you say is your Mount Rushmore of Shawn Michael matches? Like, what are your four standouts for you?
Well, so I feel like you have to, I don't know, I think you have to put the Iron Man match in there because that's, the one with Brett and of course it's winning the championship. I think I have to put the ladder match in there. Um,
With
obviously,
Razor Ramon?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, the
Okay.
WrestleMania 10. I think I get, you obviously have to put the Undertaker match in there. I guess I'm gonna put 25 in there. And look, that last one is kind of a, I don't know, you can, it's interchangeable, but the one that I guess I kind of put it in there because I don't know, I'm proud of it, and it was different. Was the man, the one with Mick at Mind Games, I believe.
Mm.
But again, I think that one, I will say it's tough to,
Those
put
are
it
good
down more
though.
because I can put the SummerSlam with Hunter in there. Uh, I can
Okay.
put
You'll put the
WrestleMania.
Ric Flair one.
Yeah, I put Flair there. I put Jericho at 19.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of a lot of those matches. So once again, I look back on it. The ones I had with Jeff Jarrett again that that
That
are
was so good.
sleepers.
Yeah.
That I think he and I had like at Ground Zero or something like that.
You guys had a
Um,
really good feud.
in Nashville. Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's just so many uh matches. I think I had really good ones with Randy. So there's just a lot that that I'm very proud of. And look, I guess I always feel like that's probably a good having, problem to have if you can't narrow it down to even
That's a good
four.
problem. One thing that we always wanted, and now you kind of touched on it briefly with Carmelo on his podcast. There's always some curiosity about, like, you versus The Rock, which I think would be amazing. Like, to this day, it kind of feels like one of those dream matches. Do you ever think about what that moment could have looked like? Or do you feel like it's okay for it to be one of those forever dream matches that we as fans kind of just think about?
Yeah, no, I think it is, and I will say that again, that's one of those places where uh even in telling that story, leaving out the fact that, saying that he didn't like me is because, well, he and a lot of people didn't like me, of course, and for good reason. But I look at that, because I think again, you can, AJ is one that also goes in there. AJ Styles, I think
Yeah.
people talk about. So I think there are going to be some of those matches that, there's lots of dream matches. That's the joy, I think, of doing this stuff is, everybody at home now is like a fantasy booker, as they call them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't know, because I even think of, I got to go out there with Steve, but never really to the extent where I felt like I was 100%. So Steve's another guy, um, that, and even Hunter and I, as many times as we worked with each other, um, I often think about what kind of ending my career would have had with him, but I simply just cannot take the Undertaker out of that equation because of the way they went.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if that makes sense. So I don't know. There are a number of people that I can probably look at that, I don't know. I think that you can say like, oh, those would have been uh, great matches, or fun individuals, to work with. But that's again, there's, that list is always going to go on and on and on. I mean, I think about Sting, somebody
Yeah.
like that that I never, because he wasn't with us. So there are numerous people out there that
Want.
you think it would have been interesting to be in the ring with, but not everything can happen.
Yeah. Hopefully, we're gonna wish for it one day. Now, one person who you do love, who loves you, is Sexy Red. You know, what is it about her energy that resonates with you? Like, does tapping into that world keep you connected to what's current in a different way? Like, what is it about Sexy Red that just does it for Shawn Michaels?
Well, look, I will say this. I think she just seems to, I honestly don't know how, uh, it all started. I mean, I think it started with her kind of, invoking HBK, to be
Yeah.
perfectly honest, and singing my song. And I will just say it is Sexy Red that is making HBK relevant in 2026, not me. So it was just something that is, again, has organically happened, that has just been sort of out of the blue and fun.
Okay.
And it's, sort of just kind of put me back out there, in a way that I don't think I was before.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I guess, maybe the fact that, I'm practically a grandpa now,
Yeah.
it just kind of works in a bit
The
more
grandpa that we
silly and
love.
innocent way.
Now, before I let you go with Woman Left on the Clock, now Lola Vice is making history as the first Cuban NXT Women's Champion. What does a moment like that represent, especially with you being head of NXT, not just for the brand, but for the culture of wrestling overall?
Well, look, I mean, everybody knows, how much of a fan I am of our women's division. Um,
Yeah.
it is sometimes very difficult when we have so many talented women um, to be able to individually give them the spotlight. It's just Lola is someone that, again, one of our biggest signees, at one time, and her crossover from MMA was just something that was big when it happened. And I don't know, I think she's really a good example of what the NXT system does of someone who comes in with quite a bit of fanfare. And much like she expressed on Tuesday on NXT, is that she did. I think she came in the door thinking that she was ready to be number one, and had to understand and learn our craft. And she is someone that has absolutely done that. She has worked so hard and never given up, and always had just a great attitude. And so it's what it should be. It's a really good story that happens to be 100% true. Somebody that, came in with a lot of fanfare, kind of, felt like they were ready to do it right away, realized they weren't, started working very hard, and then finally, reached the pinnacle of what they've always wanted to achieve in NXT. It's a feel good story, and it's 100% accurate. And it's always great when art imitates life. And Lola's a phenomenal individual. And she is, and I tell you what, she is one of the toughest girls. I mean, I'm telling you, those girls get out there and they beat the living tar out of one another. And our women, from top to bottom, in the NXT women's division, is unlike any other in the whole wide world. And I would put our young ladies up against anybody any day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Listen, Shawn, this is a perfect way to end. Did you have a good time with me today? Did you enjoy yourself?
Absolutely.
Listen, Shawn, we love you so much. Thank you so much. And fans at home, make sure you are watching the documentary. It's so good. Take the weekend, bring some wrestling fans, get some popcorn, and just rock out and have a good time. Shawn, we love you so much. I love you personally. And thank you so much, Shawn. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Ty. Appreciate you.